Topic: graphing y equal 5 times sine of x divided by 4 up to one period, and also to find amplitude and the period for our function. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at a graph that we are familiar with. Okay, and can you guess it? That's right, it's a sine x. The sine function starts at the origin. It goes to the maximum point, which is at pi over 2, and then it goes 0, or the x-axis, and then it goes to minimum point, and finally it goes back to 0 at 2 pi, which is the period of the functions. So this is one period of the function. Now we are going to write our function, and which looks similar to y equal sine x, except we have a coefficient and the period is in the denominator right here is really 4. So we're going to find the amplitude and the period for this function that is given, and that's a y equal 5 times sine of 1 over 4x. Remember that y can be written as a sine bx. So now we want to find our a and b. The a for our function is 5 and the b for our function is 1 over 4. So a is 5 and b is 1 over 4. Now that's important because now we need to find the amplitude. The amplitude for this function is the absolute value of a. So the absolute value of a is 5. Okay, remember that a is equal to 5. The absolute value of 5 is just 5. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to find the period for the function. The period for the function is 2 pi divided by b. So 2 pi, and our b is 1/4, so we're dividing it by 1/4. Now 2 divided by 1/4 is 8, and we bring down the pi. Anytime you are dividing in the fraction, so from division to multiplication, you write the reciprocal. In other words, you just flip it and you get 8 pi. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to find the x-scales. In other words, how are we going to label our x-axis? That's very important. So in order to label our x-axis, we take the period is 8 pi, and we are dividing it by 4. Remember that the sine function reaches its period after 4 values. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2 pi. We're going to count 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, 8 pi. That's one period. All sine functions reaches their period after 4 values. That's really important to remember that. So now that we have labeled our x-axis, we're also going to label our y-axis. So the amplitude for this function is 5, so that we're going to label 5 and -5. So the amplitude is really, if you just go from the origin all the way up, okay, is the distance from our starting point or the midline all the way up or all the way down. Remember, this absolute value, no matter how you go, the distance is going to be 5. Now the last thing is, so we're going to graph them basically using the graph of sine x. So you don't need a table or anything, but you could make a table based on your graph. So let's start graphing. So let's look at here. Sine function starts at the origin, all sine values. Then it goes to its max point, remember that. So at 2 pi, which is the next value, it's really 5. And then it goes back to the x-axis. And then at the third value, it is going to this min, or the lowest point. And then finally it goes back. So it starts at 0, it's starting at 0, reaches the max, going back to x-axis or 0, going to min, and going back to the 0 or the x-axis. So now we're going to label them. All you have to do is go ahead, I give you a minute, connect the points. Make sure that you don't draw straight lines. It's just like a parabola, do your best. There we go. That's graph of our y equal 5 sine of x over 4. So just remember that the key here is that we have to remember that when we have a y equals sine x, all you have to do is make sure that you remember that it starts at 0, reaches max, going back to 0, going back to min, and then going back to 0. So it's 0, 0, 0, and then you have a max and you have a min, and this is all. So this is the period for the function. So you can see that the period is 8 pi. Now here the period is 2 pi. So I've shown you how to find the amplitude, period, and min, max, everything. I think you're ready to go, and you can graph any sine function. Thank you so much. Make sure that you watch the next video. I'll do more examples, and have a great day.